Hey, how you doing guys? ZDEyE here. So today I wanted to share my full review on Wulong Fallen Dynasty. Now I finally got an opportunity of completely finishing the game. I did a little bit extra than that, did some side quests as well. Basically a little bit of everything and with the fully completed story. Now, if you guys have seen my my previous video regarding my first impressions of Wulong Fallen Dynasty, you probably already known that I was quite harsh to it, and you can see already by the title of this video, perhaps my opinion has been a little bit changed. And matter of fact, it kind of was, but some of the negatives are still present here, and I'm actually noticed another negative part that I'm just baffled. Like, seriously, what is going on here? I'll get into I'll get into all of that, of course, do not worry, but I want to mention some of the positives first, because I'm definitely having a blast with this game in terms of its combat. Right, the combat is definitely very enjoyable. It has so much reminiscent towards Neo, and of course Neo 2, because they're practically the same game. This is pretty much Neo game. It really is. It's nothing like a totally different kind of game. It really is not that. It's because I can't believe I'm saying this, because I've been noticing a lot of other reviewers saying that this is like a new game towards not from, but Team Ninja, that they actually managed to create here something like extraordinary or whatever, right? And giving it like an 8 or 9 out of 10, that's crazy in my opinion, because this is basically Neo but with a new coat of paint and different story. But yet again, the action is there. It's awesome, looks great, it works, and it looks very cool. But we have seen that once again in Neo games, both of them. And also, I want to say that I like the way that there's so much towards the character customizability as well, but that actually can be taken as a negative as well. I will mention it in a bit. I do think I like the difficulty, not at the beginning of the game though, because there's something quite harsh the way it's presented, right? The way it's introduced, if that makes sense. But then afterwards, when you keep playing the game, you notice that you will get more powerful, but then also I feel like you become perhaps a little bit too powerful, because at the end of the day, the closer I got to the end, like mid halfway points and even to the end, I was really strong, like I was OP. And I think that might be a little bit of a detriment towards this game, because it kind of loses the appeal of having a little bit of a challenge. Neo was always hard. Neo 1, Neo 2, that was quite a challenging game. Now in this case, obviously it's basically Neo once again, but a few things have been done differently. Now here's the thing I want to mention that I've noticed. This is definitely a big negative. Okay, even though the cutscenes look fantastic, they look great, voice acting is not very good. Unfortunately, for some stupid reason, I decided to go with English version, like a dubbed version, because I've done so with a similar thing with Neo and Neo 2, and I'm regretting it because it was really bad. Like, the voice acting is not that good. There's some parts of it, but also the way it kind of, how can I say, mixes with the story and the way it mixes with characters. There's a new introduction towards the characters. Then after this one whole mission, you pretty much go on your own adventure, you go your own way, and then you meet another character and stuff like that. And they also ask you questions. They literally ask you a question and you're like, that's exactly it. Like, you don't speak. Like, you never speak. You're mute. You do not speak. You have no personality in this game. And when you save characters in this game during the cutscenes, they don't even say thank you. Like, you're not even present in this world, but yet they try so hard to make you the main character, but you clearly can see it just does not work. And it felt so apparent in here, so much more than it was in Neo 2, because in Neo 1 the guy still talked, right? Like, it was an Englishman, he talked while he was in Asian territory, right? Like, even though he didn't quite understand, even though they were speaking to him in their own language, and yet as if he would understand that. There's, you see, something about these games that Team Ninja is just constantly always do it, and not very well at that. And as such, even though it has a very good character customizability, but yet this character is such a like a brick, if that makes sense, right? Even though he has got very good movement sets and stuff like that, like, you know, he looks fantastic. They did a fantastic job with the choreography as well, right? The way the characters move, not just you and John, but every one of them. But the thing is, the way they speak, the way they act is overdone. And that's why I say it's not very good. And it's so noticeable that at the end of the day, I started fucking skipping the cutscenes. I'm so glad the way they even implemented the skip button, because like otherwise I just couldn't handle this. I really couldn't. You know, one moment, like for example, whatever this means, you every time you get spirit, right, like you become friends with one of the characters, they trust you a little bit more, so you get some powers basically from them. It was actually done in Neo 2, I believe, as well, or perhaps even Neo 1. It's just so awkward. You see what I mean? Like the story within this, like Team Ninja really needs to work on their stories, like in the way that they've been telling the stories as well. It's genuinely incoherent story work. It's a very weak voiceover work as well. And I'm gonna say this as well, like it looks like I'm gonna be standing as I mentioned regarding my first impressions video of the Wulong, regarding of the environments. Okay, I'll be honest in one thing. The game isn't as ugly as I thought, because I think I got used to it when I kept on playing it. It just kind of, I kind of got sucked into it, if that makes sense. And so I could differentiate a lot of things between them, but I still think that Neo and Neo 2 look better, but that's just me. But also, I'm noticing that the, how can I say, Neo has a lot more of the environments that are a lot more mystique. And don't get me wrong, it's not as if Wulong doesn't have that. It genuinely does, but Neo has far more variety. But nevertheless, like with the special effects that's done in this game is incredible. Again, same thing in Neo. It's just like, this game overall is a filler. This game is a filler. I'm sorry, I just have to say this, because like, I think maybe Team Ninja has like 2 studios within there. I'm not too sure how this works. It's just my opinion right now, guys. Basically, one studio, like they're not as big studio, they were working on Wulong, but the main studio, they're working on the game that's coming out in the 2024. It's called Rise of the Ronin. So maybe that will be the game to be looking forward to, and that's the game that should be like the main title that everybody should be looking forward to it, right? And as such, they perhaps needed to cover a cost, or perhaps they needed to do something, and so they decided to I can't even say remake, but redo basically Neo games all over again. But I don't know, it just doesn't really work. But something about this game overall rubbed me the wrong way, quite severely on top of that. It just gave me a very bad taste to my mouth. Now, nevertheless, my opinion has been improved compared to what it was from the first impressions. But nevertheless, this game, oh my god, like, you're the hero of the story, and yet you just like, when you're there, right, in the cutscenes, and you're just looking at yourself, you don't speak at all, you grunt, because that's all you can really do. And the characters, whenever they're like over-exaggerate a ton of times, it genuinely pisses me the fuck off. Like, maybe it's also because I kind of moved on from these sorts of games that they're just mainly about the gameplay. But man, this is irritating as hell, because like, I like to have my games to have good storytellings as well. I'm not looking from a game that has only gameplay. I'm moved on from that. That's why, for example, like Dead Island 2, when that will be coming out, even though the story is not going to be anything special, as from the previews that I've gotten anyway, that people got an opportunity of playing and checking it out, but they have all said that the gameplay is good, it works, it's great, it's going to be hectic and, you know, kind of stupid fun, if that makes sense. In this case, it's kind of might be this, it's not kind of might be, it is the same thing. It's just, the story is there for the hell of it, and just get rid of it as quickly as possible and make sure that you have good gameplay, but yet again, they didn't really do anything in terms of the gameplay, and they just taking everything from Neo and Neo 2 and implemented it in here, but they didn't really improve as well a lot of things. Like I said already, my first impressions video pretty much stands everything in here. A few things definitely I've started easing up on, for example, the environment and the beauty of the world, because like I'm noticing that as soon as I dived in more and I kept on playing it, I kind of just got used to it, if that makes sense, and this is why I'm noticing the beauty within this world. But I want to say, guys, that this game is still outdated. I think this game needs to be moved on. I think something is wrong with this engine, that there's so much limitations that I'm noticing, and of course you have noticed as well. This was actually a problem with Neo 2, and this game, Wulong. And just as an example, when you're going through corridor to corridor, there are different paths and side paths that you can take. Now, unfortunately, you do not know which way you want to go. For example, I want to explore everything that this map has to offer, this world has to offer, so I don't want to go into the main path. And I want to recognize that if that's even possible, but also kind of makes it interesting because of the mystique. But yet, I'm just like, okay, there's an area there you obviously can clearly go through, but then you cannot swim, you like pretty much die, I know you don't, but like you pretty much die. Or for example, you cannot climb over this wall because they have an invisible wall there. See, there's a lot of limitations that this game has. It kind of pisses me off a little. It really pisses me off a little bit. I mean, like, if you have walls or some kind of limitations or something that you want to restrict your characters or perhaps your gamers when you're playing your game, maybe do it something a little more creative ways. For example, like The Last of Us Part 2, like the way they've done it, like they don't have those walls that, for example, you cannot climb over, or there's some sections that you think you should be able to, but instead you can't. There's none of that. But again, maybe that's just too tall of a task to ask, and like I said, this game overall is simply just a filler. It's just a filler to fill in something in 2023 year of the release from Team Ninja, and as such because they want to have more time and finally make and finish up with Rise of the Ronin. Alright guys, if I would have had to give it a score, I think I give it like, my initial thinking was like a subpar games, like 5 out of 10, but I'm gonna give it a little bit higher score, give it like a 6 or 7 out of 10. I feel like 7 is on my generous, kind of mind says, if that makes sense. But no, I think I'll give it like maybe a 6, 6.5, something between that anyway, or basically 6. Let's just give it a 6, it makes more sense this way. Alright guys, well that's just my review for this game. I'm just a little bit disappointed the way I even purchased it for full price, because this game's not worth the full price tag. I'm sorry. But if you find the enjoyment, and for example, don't listen to me if you you do not have to listen to me if you find the enjoyment within this game. It's just my opinion. I like to share sometimes, and maybe I'm negative about this. That's like, and you don't agree, like I said, it is totally cool. Alright guys, I feel like I'm dragging this long enough. It's already 2 o'clock in the morning here, and you can already hear by the tone of my voice that I'm a little bit dry. Look, I'm repeating myself. Alright, like and subscribe. See you guys all. Have a wonderful day.